joined by Jason Romano, who's from the Capital Region, who knows a lot about the Capital Region, a lot about local radio there, worked at 810, WGY, Don Weeks days, Chuck Custer. Yep. And, of course, I was telling him my wife now, Kelly's in Chuck and Kelly in the morning on 810. And this guy, I guess, watched me a few times over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Roger and Zach. Good to be here with you
Great
guys.
to have
Welcome to our home here in Bristol.
Yeah, man.
Great to have you here. I grew up in Ravenna, New York, and that's where I went to school. And I said to you off air, I was like, I watched you when I was growing up, 7th, 8th, high schooler, so it's kind of ironic to be on with you guys. Yeah,
because that was the Bob McNamara days.
Oh, yeah.
I
went to his high school basketball camp in 1989.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I was just telling Jason, it was 30 years for me in August, being at WNYT. I came in the summer of 1986, and you've been with ESPN for 16 years.
16. I started
That's
in July
crazy.
of 2000. Yeah.
All right, so what, do we get that wrong about, are you the producer for Mike and Mike?
Well, there's a bunch of producers.
I'm sure there is,
so
but you're one
of them.
of.
Sure.
Yeah. So how is that?
It's great. I mean, I've been back. It's funny, the circle of life, kind of how it works, the circle of work. I started my career 16 years ago working on Mike and Mike.
Wow.
And they were on the air for about 8 months at the time I came here.
Oh.
And I spent about a year with them, as I was starting my career at ESPN. And just about 9 months ago, I came back to work on Mike and Mike. So it's really just a contrast of what it was like when I first started here to now. And they're great. I mean, I am overseeing the social and digital media on the show and work with them on a daily basis, day in, day out. I'm really trying to take advantage of this new platform, these new social media worlds where it's Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and really extending the brand of.
Boy, I need a lesson on that.
Anytime, I'll come in there. But trying to extend the brand of the show into the social space and really keep it going throughout the day and not just have it be a 6 to 10 a.m. show. Mike and Mike's really a multimedia show now on all these different platforms.
Well, it's funny because we talk about it all the time, Zach and I, about, same thing you're talking about. Like people 10 to noon, may or may not be able to listen to our show 10 to noon, but outside of that, we still need to be able to tell them what we're doing and who we've had on and run promos to say we had Danny Cannell on and we had, Jay Harris on. I mean, that's become, am I correct, Jason? You're doing it at the national level. That's become a really big deal.
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, the podcast that Mike and Mike puts out is literally just the show, and we cut it into segments and put it out as a podcast, and it reaches hundreds of thousands of people every week, just the podcast, all throughout the day. And then you also have Instagram, where we have 140,000 followers, and Twitter, where we're over 1.2 million. And when you're putting things out throughout the day, content, clips, quotes, you name it, pictures, anything behind the scenes, like that extends the brand from just a 6 to 10 a.m. type of show. And Greeny and Golick have both bought into that as well, and they're on social media, and they're all throughout the day participating with fans and kind of talking to them back and forth, sharing content.
Now, how much do they do it?
They do it themselves. They do. I help them. I mean, I don't post for them ever. They post their own things, but I'll show them things. I'll send them content. I'll say, here, this might be a good thing to share on your feeds or whatever. But when you're watching a game on Sunday and you're checking Twitter and Greeny and Golick are tweeting, that's them. That's their handles.
I see Greeny's particularly active on Twitter and things like that.
Oh yeah.
What's your favorite part of your day, of your job?
Well, it's not fun to come in at 4 a.m. every day. I can tell you that much.
Jay Harris just said the same thing.
Jay is a good friend of mine, and I see Jay every morning when I come in the office, and I'm like, oh, Jay, here we go again, 4 a.m. Nobody else is awake, but we are. But my favorite part probably is just the sort of, you come in with a structured show. You guys do it. I've done it for years. Even when in my local days, we would come in with this sort of structure of what the show, where the show's supposed to go.
Like one of these?
Exactly. Rundown, what we're going to talk about. And then it just kind of goes off on the beaten path into its own world. And that's my favorite thing. Every morning, Greeny and Golick, there's always at least one time in the show where they just take it to a direction you had no idea where you were going.
And that's a good thing.
That's a great thing. That's what brings out their personalities.
Right.
It's usually the most memorable moment in the show, and it certainly makes for something that we can share in social and tell everybody else about. I mean, it's just, the other day, Al Leiter kept calling Greeny Goldie.
Yeah.
We had no idea what was going on, and it was sort of the elephant in the room. We had to address it. And that became a running gag that people still today are referring to Greeny as Goldie. So it's very funny.
Hey, what about a downside to your job?
I think just waking up early. There's not a lot of downside to working on Mike and Mike. I mean, or even just working in this business. We were talking about that off the air too. I mean, we're so blessed to be able to do what we do on a daily basis, talking sports and producing sports. That's great. The downside's probably, the time, waking up early. I'm not there with my kid. I'm a family guy now. I'm not there with my kid in the morning as she gets ready to go to school. But the good side is I'm home every night, and I get to be with her at night and on the weekend. So you take the good with the bad in this business.
What time do you go to bed at night?
It varies. This week's going to be terrible because the World Series is going on, and
I'll say, how do you manage that? Because you got games that don't start till 8. West Coast games would be 10:30 at night. It's a big game. I mean,
watch West Coast games. Yeah, I usually kind of go to bed around 8:30, 8:45.
I mean, you can't possibly stay up for the whole game.
No, I mean,
and with the social networking the way, you can wake up and you can probably get caught up in a real hurry. If you're not watching it live.
That's what I do. I'm usually watching the early games. I can make it till 10. I'm a Mets fan. If the Mets were playing last year, the Mets were playing in the World Series, I will stay up for that. If it's not my team, and it's a game like Monday Night Football last night, I get to halftime, and then I'm just like, I just got to be awake this morning. I can't do it. So I'll wake up earlier, maybe 5-10 minutes earlier, come in, check the score, watch the highlights, watch SportsCenter, and just catch up. It's not hard to catch up anymore.
No.
Maybe 5-10 years ago it was a lot harder, but
now it's easier.
It's much easier.
Yeah, no doubt. Jason Romano with us, one of the producers for Mike and Mike. What about these two guys? How different are they? I know you've gotten to know them pretty well.
Yeah.
They seem to be pretty regular guys for the most part.
They are. They are exactly what they are off the air as they are on the air. It's not just something I'm trying to say here. That's the truth. And they're great. They're both great to work with. Different guys. Obviously, Greeny is what Greeny is. He's the guy who's the fan, and Golick is the player. Greeny might go a little deeper in analytics and kind of, Greeny is the guy who eats well and watches what he's workout, whatever. And Golick's just like this big, sort of ex-jock guy who just kind of takes things as they come. But they're both amazing at what they do. And I think when you have worked here long enough and you've worked with a lot of people, I've worked with a lot of different talent at ESPN. And you come into two guys who've been doing this together for so many years, and you see the rapport that they have, and you see how good they are. Greeny, there's not a better interviewer, and there's not a better guy who will tease. I mean, you guys probably know this. He's the best teaser.
He invented the tease.
He invented the tease. It's amazing, and I watch it, and he writes everything on his own. Like we supply him with a lot of content throughout the show, both the guys, but they're doing all this their own way. They're delivering it their way. Greeny's writing the beginning of the show and the first couple things he says. That's him. That's not any of us telling him or helping him. I mean, he's doing it.
It's him being a pro.
So it's being around two of the best, and that's what's really neat about it.
Is there ever any tension on the set? I mean,
not really.
No?
I mean, they know it's a show. I don't think in the 9 months I've been back on the show that there's really been one moment where it was like a deep-seated argument of any sorts. They don't have those.
Yeah.
I mean,
are they demanding with you?
Not really. I mean, not demanding. I mean, when you work with a show like Mike and Mike, they expect you to be at the top of your game. I mean, it's the gold standard for morning radio, right, in sports. So you want to be at the top of your game. I don't call them demanding, but they expect everybody to be the best they can be.
Yeah.
So I try to exude that and make sure that I'm on my game and I'm not trying to slack here or miss something. But if I do, occasionally they might say something. Hey, I need this, or don't forget that, or whatever. But I think that's how it works for every person on the show.
Well, whatever it is, it's worked over the years because that show, right, is about as popular as it's ever been.
It's the gold standard, I think, for morning radio, sports morning radio.
Yeah, I mean the ratings are phenomenal in every market, and they're certainly phenomenal in the
TV ratings
in the capital region.
Just as good. That's what the crazy thing is. They've become more of as much a TV show as they are a radio show.
Yeah.
And that's another thing they almost invented is like the simulcast. It's like, wait, you're going to put, 15 years ago, he said, we're going to take the radio, but we're going to put the radio show on TV. Mm-hmm. It's like, wait, no one's going to watch that. Yeah. But here they are.
And they tried it. They started on ESPN News, so it was like a safe place to go and try.
Sure.
Because there wasn't a ton of eyeballs. And then it started to do well. So it's like, all right, let's go to ESPN2. And it just took off, and they're still there.
Is there some big announcement coming tomorrow? Is there some sort of announcement?
Oh, yeah, there is. So if you tune in tomorrow morning, there's a chance. I can't tell you what it is.
Well, this is where Greeny keeps teasing this, and he teases it to the point where he's basically telling you what it's going to be.
Yeah, he gets mad because we tell him what it is beforehand, and he even tells his wife this, don't tell me what it is because I will spoil it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'm telling you it's a gigantic prize, and you want to tune in. I think it's at 7:20 tomorrow morning is when the first reveal is. It's a big deal. and it's going to be really cool. So definitely,
cool.
It's
Jason,
about the best I can give you.
Yeah, love it.
Jason, great insight. Great seeing you.
Hey, this is awesome.
Ravenna,
New York native gets to be on with you guys.
Oh man,
awesome.
well, it's great. It's great having
really cool.
a seasoned veteran like yourself and a producer Mike and Mike on our show, and we do try to reach out to guests here to get them on our show.
Yeah, what will it take?
And
what
we're
will
in
it
the process.
I know you got the pull, Jason. What will it take to get one of the two?
They don't do a lot of that, do they?
They don't do. It's not that they're not like high maintenance or anything like that. To be honest with you, they're family guys.
Yeah.
And when the show's over and their business is done, they go back to their families and they want to spend that time with them. Well,
we have this little 10 to noon thing going on, so
I'll ask him.
Throw it out
might
there.
do me a favor. He's usually here right after the show. Maybe you can get him right after. We'll see.
Our consultants say every segment's like 6 minutes long.
Okay. There you go.
But we go longer.
7 minutes segment.
7 minute segment. We'll keep it nice and short and sweet with those guys. All right, Jason. Thanks
a lot,
man.
Guys,
appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Jason Romano, producer of Mike and Mike, with us here on Big Board Sports.